Port Charles does not let anyone rest, and this week is living proof of that. Sidwell is on the run and already plotting his next move, and Sonny may be walking straight into a trap he doesn't see coming. Britt and Rocco are about to get hit with a shock that changes everything. And Ava, our Ava, just admitted something she has never, ever wanted to say out loud. Friends, this is a big one. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get into every single detail. Sidwell is free, and Sonny just became his #1 target. Let's start with the situation that should have every Sonny fan holding their breath right now. Sidwell is out. He's gone. After everything that went down, the trap Lucas set, the arrest, the handcuffs, Sidwell somehow slipped away and is now operating as a fugitive. And if you think that means Port Charles can exhale, think again. Because a cornered, humiliated, furious Sidwell is infinitely more dangerous than the one who was quietly pulling strings from the shadows. Let's think about what Sidwell has lost in a very short amount of time. He lost his blackmail leverage. The photos and negatives that connected Sonny and Laura to Professor Dalton's death are gone, burned to ash. He lost the upper hand he'd been holding over people's heads for so long. He fell directly into Lucas' trap and got arrested on camera. And now he's a fugitive, hunted, with his carefully constructed empire crumbling around him. That is a lot of loss for a man who is not built to accept losing. And here's the thing about Sidwell that makes him especially frightening right now. He doesn't separate business from personal. This has never been purely about strategy for him. Marco pushed him relentlessly to go after Sonny. Marco was obsessed with avenging Natalia and wiping Sonny off the map entirely. And Marco is gone. That grief, sitting on top of everything else Sidwell has lost, is not going to make him more rational. It is going to make him reckless, emotional, willing to take risks he might not have taken before. Which means Sonny is in real danger. Sonny has resources, yes. He has security. He has people around him who are trained for exactly this kind of threat. But Sidwell knows how Sonny operates. He studied him. He's watched him long enough to understand the patterns, the blind spots, the moments when even the best security in the world can't account for everything. And Sidwell isn't going to come at Sonny directly. That's not how men like him operate when they're desperate. He'll be patient. He'll set something up. A trap designed to mirror what Lucas did to him, but with a very different outcome in mind. There is also the deeply unsettling possibility that Sidwell goes after the people around Sonny rather than Sonny himself. That is a classic move when someone wants to cause maximum pain. You don't just go for the man, you go for what the man loves. His family, his relationships, the people who make him human rather than just powerful. Now, nobody seriously believes Sonny is going to be killed off. That's not how the show works, and Sonny's story is far from finished. But a close call, a hospital crisis, a moment where his loved ones are genuinely terrified they might lose him, that is absolutely on the table. General Hospital knows how to use those moments to devastating emotional effect, and if Sidwell is the one engineering the danger, you can bet it's going to be dramatic. The bottom line is this: Sidwell made a decision somewhere in the chaos of his arrest and escape. He decided that Sonny is the one who has to pay. And until that score is settled, in whatever form that ultimately takes, nobody in Sonny's orbit is going to be truly safe. Keep your eyes open, because whatever Sidwell is planning, he's had time to think about it, and he does not make sloppy moves twice.
Somebody help us! Call an ambulance!
And something horrifying is coming. Now let's talk about two characters who have been off the canvas for a little while, living on the run, and are about to return with a storyline that sounds genuinely alarming. Cast your mind back to when this all started. Rocco made a heartfelt, emotional plea to Britt, and she listened. Against every instinct that told her keeping him safe meant keeping him away, she took him with her. They've been running ever since, staying one step ahead of people who very much want to find them. And there are multiple people looking. Sonny put Britt on their trail almost immediately. Cullum, despite having replaced Britt with Liesel on the Cold Fusion project, has not called off his search, because Rocco shot him. Rocco knows things. Britt knows things. And Cullum is not someone who lets loose ends wander around unsupervised. Rocco did manage to get a video message out to Lulu and Dante, letting them know he went with Britt willingly, that this wasn't a kidnapping, that he was making his own choice. It was a kind thing to do, even if it didn't exactly make the people who love him feel better about his safety. Knowing he went voluntarily, and knowing he's safe are two very different things. So Britt and Rocco have been out there together, hiding, moving, staying quiet. And then the week of their return hits, and everything changes. Rocco is going to make a disturbing discovery. That's the word coming out of Port Charles. Something horrifying lands on him in the middle of all this, and it shakes things up dramatically. What exactly that discovery is hasn't been confirmed, but the possibilities are genuinely unsettling. The most obvious scenario is that someone finds them. After all this time on the run, all the careful movement and the deliberate hiding, someone finally figures out where they are. Maybe it's one of Brick's contacts. Maybe it's one of Cullum's people. Maybe it's someone neither of them anticipated. And Rocco, perhaps in a moment when he's alone or less guarded, walks into that reality first. Picture that moment. Rocco, who has been living with the constant low-level fear of being found, suddenly faced with the confirmation that yes, they know where you are. The running might be over. And not in a good way. Britt finding out would happen fast. And what she does in that moment is going to say everything about who she is right now. Britt has never been someone who freezes. She acts. She improvises. And if someone has come for them with bad intentions, Britt is fully capable of handling that situation in very physical, very direct terms before Rocco even fully processes what's happening. But whatever the specific shape of this discovery turns out to be, one thing is clear: their time in hiding is about to get a lot more complicated. The comfortable version of the run, if there ever was one, is over. What happens after the shock? Whether they have to move again, whether someone gets hurt, whether this is the beginning of their path back to Port Charles or a deeper spiral into danger, that's what's going to keep viewers riveted. Because Rocco and Britt on the run together have created an unexpected bond. Watching them navigate genuine terror together is going to test everything. Hold on tight, because their return is not going to be a gentle one. Ava said the words nobody expected to hear. And now we come to the moment of the week that honestly stopped me in my tracks. Because Ava Jerome, our complicated, fierce, perpetually self-justifying Ava, sat down with Nina and admitted something that she has been fighting against admitting for months. Carly was right. Let that land for a second. Because if you know Ava, you know that those 3 words, in that particular order, cost her something real. Ava would genuinely rather endure almost any other discomfort than hand Carly a win. She'd rather sit through a difficult legal deposition, a tense family dinner, a conversation about almost anything else. Admitting that Carly called something correctly goes against every instinct Ava has. And yet she said it. She told Nina, over drinks, that she had known Sidwell was dangerous. She had seen the signs. She had watched him manipulate people, threaten people, leave destruction everywhere he went. And she got involved with him anyway, not because she didn't see the red flags, but because she chose to look away from them. That distinction matters enormously. This wasn't naivety. Ava is not a naive woman and has never pretended to be. She saw exactly who Sidwell was and made a calculated decision that she could manage him. That she was clever enough, experienced enough, resourceful enough to get what she wanted from the situation without getting burned. She was wrong. And now she knows it. The conversation with Nina peeled back the layer that Ava usually keeps firmly in place. Because underneath the admission about Sidwell was something larger, a recognition of a pattern. Ava has done this before. She has been drawn to dangerous people, dangerous situations, dangerous arrangements, over and over again throughout her life in Port Charles. Sometimes it's worked out. More often, it has come at a cost. And this time, Carly saw the cost coming before Ava was willing to. Now, Carly's observation that Ava had dollar signs in her eyes rather than clear vision was pointed. It was the kind of remark that lands precisely because it's true. There was money and power attached to the Sidwell connection, and Ava has never been someone who turns away from money and power without a fight. That combination blinded her to things she should have seen more clearly. But here's where it gets genuinely concerning. Ava walked away from that conversation, feeling a measure of relief. Sidwell was arrested. He was gone. She told herself he was probably far away by now, out of the country, starting over somewhere, no longer Port Charles's problem or her problem. Nina didn't buy it, and Nina was right not to. Because Sidwell is a fugitive. He is angry. He has lost everything he spent years building, his leverage, his reputation, his freedom, his composure. The version of Sidwell that's out there right now is not the controlled, calculating operator who thought he had everyone right where he wanted them. This is the desperate version, the wounded version, the version who has decided that if he's going down, some people are going down with him. And Ava, who was close to him, who knows things, who was involved, is not someone a man in that mental state is going to simply forget about. The timing of Ava's self-awareness is bittersweet, to say the least. She has arrived at the truth a little too late to avoid the consequences that are already in motion. The danger hasn't passed just because she's seen it clearly. If anything, naming it out loud might be the moment right before it shows up at her door. And that is the enduring tragedy of Ava. She is smart enough to recognize her patterns. She is self-aware enough to articulate what goes wrong. But the recognition tends to arrive just after the point where it could have protected her, and just before the fallout hits. She has survived everything Port Charles has thrown at her so far. She is resilient in ways that should never be underestimated. But Sidwell on the loose, with nothing left to lose, is a different kind of threat than anything that's come before. Ava said Carly was right. Let's hope that's not the last thing she gets the chance to admit to anyone. What a week for Port Charles. Sidwell is out there and hunting. Sonny is squarely in his sights. Britt and Rocco are walking into something that's going to shake them to the core, and Ava is finally seeing clearly, maybe just a little too late. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Sonny gets out of Sidwell's trap unscathed? Are you worried about Ava? And what do you think Rocco's disturbing discovery is going to be? Subscribe if you haven't already, give this video a like, and I will see you right back here for the next update. Stay dramatic, Port Charles fans, always.